A.O.N.A. Show with Alex C. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. And now, here is Alex C.
Hey everybody, welcome to the A.O.N.A. Show with Alex C. Happy Labor Day weekend to one and all. Hope you're having a good one. All right, so let's go over a few things here. Let's start off with a topic that, again, I was trying to avoid because, again, I'm not your political guy. I am not a social justice warrior. That is not my thing. And I'm not looking to get anything political in any way, shape, or form. But sometimes politics and sports, they kind of mesh together, right? There's just, is something about politics and sports that you just can't stop them from meshing. This happens to be one of those instances. Now, I'm not going to get political in regards to what I'm going to talk about. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's a political topic. We're going to have a quick conversation. I'm not going to get deep. I'm not going to tell you what you should do. That's not my idea. I'm not here to tell anybody what to think, when to think, and how to think it. That is not my deal. So again, I just want to make sure that you understand that, give you the little precursor before we get into this actual topic. And this topic, by the way, is not going to be our full topic today. Today, we're going to be talking about the AFC West. I'm going to break down wins and losses, who's going to win the division. That's what we're going to talk about mainly. But we're going to start off with this because it's been a very hot topic, and it's something that we kind of got to go over. So poll questions come back to start this off. Should NFL teams cut players if they are not vaccinated? Now, we all know about the stories and the rumors and everything that's gone on. Head coach of the Jaguars made a comment. There's, of course, the situation with Cam Newton in New England. Did being vaccinated have anything to do with him not making the team? Yes, no, maybe. How much of a factor was it? All those things are contributing factors, allegedly, in regards to what took place in the decision-making process. All right. Now, the poll question again is, should NFL teams cut players if they are not vaccinated? This one came back, 56% of you voted nay, that people should not be cut from teams if they are not vaccinated, okay? 56%. Now, if you want to answer any of the questions on our Twitter page, by the way, the address to the Twitter page is Yay or Nay Podcast. The other question that came back that I want to talk about is, should the NFL force players to get vaccinated? Now, we all know that currently they're trying to do an end around. They're not forcing them. They're not writing anything up in the rule books trying to say that they have to be vaccinated. And they are, of course, doing an end around. Players who are not vaccinated have to be, of course, tested more. They've got stiff regulations in regards to what they can and cannot do. Practice field, eating, traveling, hotels. When they're out of town, they got all these rules and regulations that are extra that are being imposed on players who are not vaccinated versus players who are vaccinated. And there's a lot of yay or nay to this whole topic, right? Again, the question, should the NFL force players to get vaccinated? 58% of the people that were polled, nay, they should not have to get vaccinated, okay? So 58% of the people that were polled said nay, that players should not be forced to get vaccinated by the NFL. All right, now, again, this topic can become political. I'm not going to go there. We're not going to get political. That's not what we're going to do. But again, it is a topic that can become political. But there's a lot of things to talk about when you're talking about this particular topic. Number one, we talked a moment ago about the fact that the NFL is imposing restrictions on players who are not currently vaccinated, right? They've got travel bans. They've got certain things that they cannot and cannot do in the weight rooms. Player meetings, they got to do Zooms. They can't be in the weight room with players who are vaccinated if they're not vaccinated. They can't eat at tables with other players. They travel differently. Their hotel rooms are different. Everything they do is different. Now, some would say that this is an end around to putting a mandate on players having to get vaccinated. In other words, it's a way to give incentive to players who don't want to get vaccinated to actually get vaccinated because of all the inconveniences that the NFL is putting upon these players who are not vaccinated. That's one version of it. Another version is the NFL is trying to protect its product, trying to protect its players, trying to make sure everyone's health is not an issue, and that they are taking every precaution to make sure that all players and all coaches are healthy, okay? And the yay or nay to this is, if you are yay pro-vaccine, then you applaud the NFL for what they're doing. If you are nay, not necessarily for being vaccinated, then you are probably saying that the players who are not getting vaccinated have every right to make that decision. The thing is that where the yay people are saying, congratulations, NFL, we're proud of you for what you're doing, The nay people are saying, NFL, we're not proud of you for how you're trying to inconvenience these players and force them into getting vaccinated by imposing all these extra rules and regulations upon said players. That is a very good point, right? So if you've got these players that aren't vaccinated and they're getting all these extra rules and regulation, then for the people who are anti-vaxxers, their argument about the NFL trying to basically give certain incentives to players to go ahead and do so, even though it goes against their beliefs, there's some validity to that point, right? There obviously is. Now, the other part of this puzzle is that, the NFL is also saying that, hey, if you have religious beliefs or personal beliefs that stop you from being able to have the ability or the want to get vaccinated, we will respect that. So that is the NFL's out. And again, pro-vaccinators, yay, people who are in favor of the NFL and what they're doing, are once again applauding the NFL, saying, hey, good job, NFL. We're proud of you. You're not being cold-hearted. You're looking at this from all perspectives, and we think you're doing a great job. For the nay, the people, again, who are anti-vaxxers, they're saying, look, while you're saying one thing, you're imposing all these rules and restrictions, whether they do or don't have religious or other beliefs that would stop them from having the ability to get vaccinated. So it doesn't matter whether you say that you're respecting the wishes of these players who have religious and other beliefs that stop them from getting vaccinated. You are still imposing the same restrictions upon them that you're imposing on every other player that is choosing to not get vaccinated. So again, another very good point. And again, that's the problem. There's good points on both sides. This is a very, very, very difficult problem to navigate because there are so many different variables involved when you're talking about people getting vaccinated and not getting vaccinated. You have players that have parents that are very heavy and they're heavy influence in regards to their life, and they're telling them not to get vaccinated for whatever the reason is. You have players who have religious beliefs, so they choose not to get vaccinated. You have players who have other beliefs, political or otherwise, that make it to where they don't want to get vaccinated. So by choice, they're not getting vaccinated. And irregardless of which one of those categories an unvaccinated player falls into, they have all these extra rules, regulations, and restrictions. But here's where the naysayers of the NFL and their mandates come into play in regards to what the NFL is doing, because what they're simply saying and the noise that they're making is, look, NFL, we understand that you're trying to make sure that the players are healthy. We get it. We understand it. We respect it. You have to also respect the rights of others to make decisions and choices that they want to make, whether they do or don't get vaccinated. And whether they do or don't get vaccinated, the amazing point to the naysayers is that it doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated or whether you're not vaccinated. The chance of you getting COVID is still there. And you're still going to get COVID. And you're still going to have plenty of people, because it's already happening now, that even though they're fully vaccinated, they're testing positive for COVID. So if you have people that are already fully vaccinated and they're testing positive for COVID left and right, why are you putting these restrictions on players who are not vaccinated? You're actually hurting the teams. You're hurting the cohesion of the players. You're hurting the ability of the players to be able to perform at their 100% best if they're not fully vaccinated. And it's almost, again, as if you're mandating that these players get vaccinated. Otherwise, you're going to make it very difficult for them to play football and enjoy their season this year. And that's the way that the naysayers are looking at it. But again, one key point that they do have that does make a lot of sense is what? It's that even if you're fully vaccinated, you're still going to test positive and catch COVID the same way that a non-vaccinated person is going to catch COVID. It's not anything different. It's really not. And when you're talking about athletes and guys who are fully in shape, then you're talking about a disease that isn't going to affect them very much at all, because we know the science. The science says that guys who are fully in shape, like NBA players and NHL players and NFL players, MLB players, anybody who's physical in any way, shape, or form, that they're not going to be affected very heavily in regards to COVID. So that's the way it's worked out. That's the way that it has so far worked out. Hopefully it stays that way. But the bottom line is, when you think about it, the naysayers have a point. Vaccinated or unvaccinated, you can still test positive for COVID. So why are you punishing the unvaccinated? Again, all I'm simply saying is, by this poll, most of the people fans, obviously, that voted on my poll are simply saying the NFL should not be having players get cut. We all know, again, what happened in Jacksonville. We all, again, know what happened in New England. And we know that vaccination played a role. We know that with other teams, it's played a role as well. And we know that the Players Association is now going to be digging into a lot of these cuts and looking and seeing if one of the contributing, if not the actual factor of why these guys got cut is because they're not vaccinated. And this could get complicated quick. Hopefully it doesn't, but it could. I hope it doesn't. My whole point of this is not because I wanted to have a political discussion, not because I want you to believe a certain point of view. Again, if you notice, I displayed both points of view, and I did it to the best of my ability. And not to say that I couldn't have maybe done it better. You can always do something better, but I gave you both points of view, yay and nay, to the best of my ability. Again, I'm not here to tell you what to think, when to think, or how to think it. What I am trying to do is to hopefully get people on both sides, players and on the NFL side, to understand that you've got to work together to find a compromise. Okay, a compromise. Not a baseline to have an argument on, but a compromise. I don't know that imposing these extra restrictions on players who are not vaccinated makes a lot of sense to me personally, only because, again, anybody can test positive whether they're fully vaccinated or not. So if they can test positive whether they're fully vaccinated or not, then these restrictions don't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I think that there should be some type of a compromise. I'm not saying that the NFL should not have the ability to impose extra restrictions. They can do that if they choose, because, again, I understand you want to protect your product. You want to make sure that you don't lose any revenue. You want to make sure that your health of your players and of all of the organizations is basically taken care of as best as possible. I understand all those things, right? So certain extra restrictions might make sense, okay? But I think the NFL currently at the moment has went a little far with them. But again, that's just my opinion. I'm not telling you to think that, okay? But I'm telling you, if you look at this rationally and if you look at this in a full scope, again, the one thing to me that stands out is whether you're fully vaccinated or whether you're not vaccinated. Guess what? Both can test positive for COVID-19, irregardless of whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. So by separating the players, right, it's almost like you're calling them out on purpose. That's what the naysayers are saying. It's like you're calling these guys out on purpose. You're trying to embarrass them. You're trying to force them to feel pressure to go get vaccinated. And again, there's a variety of reasons why people might not want to get vaccinated, and it's their choice. I mean, after all, why would we go after people who are not fully vaccinated playing football for COVID-19 when we're not necessarily going after all of the parents who don't vaccinate their kids because they're afraid that they might catch certain diseases by getting their normal vaccinations that you get as a youth? So why would this be any different? Again, and I'm just pointing that out because there has to be a compromise. I'm not telling anybody to think any certain way. I'm not telling anybody to think the way that I think. I'm showing you how I think. I'm showing you why I think what I think, but I am not telling you to follow my path or follow my lead, if you will. That's not what I'm trying to do. Okay. This is a tough topic. It's a tough situation. Both sides have valid points, but the missing piece of the puzzle is we have to find a compromise. There has to be a compromise. That's my point. That's what I'm trying to get to. All right, let's move on. AFC West. We have the Kansas City Chiefs, the LA Chargers, the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's talk about odds right now. Division odds for winning the division. We have Kansas City with minus 250. We have the LA Chargers coming in at plus 450. We have the Denver Broncos coming in at plus 600. And we have the Las Vegas Raiders coming in at 2,200. Look, the Raiders got a lot of holes. They got a lot of problems. They got a lot of rookies. If we're going to break the Raiders down, it's really simple. You got a coach who's making bad decisions. He's made bad roster choices. He's traded away stars, trying to get capital to go ahead and go and get picks. He gets the picks, and he's made a lot of bad picks. So unless he gets lucky and a lot of these picks that he's made, bad picks at that, start to come in and start to show, then he's in a lot of trouble this year. And this plus 2,200 is pretty legit, in my opinion. As far as them coming in last, I would say that that makes sense. Absolutely, wholeheartedly. without a doubt in my mind in any way, shape, or form. Denver, I'm not convinced on your quarterback choice. I get it. You have two quarterbacks to choose from. You thought that, you should have a battle and you should figure out who your quarterback should be. I've said it once. I've said it twice. I'll say it a million times. What you need to do is figure out when you're going to get rid of John Elway, when you're going to remove him from the organization so you can move forward and become a winner. That's what needs to happen. Denver has a lot of problems. Defensively, I've read a couple of reports where a lot of people are saying defensively they struggle, but you hear a lot of the national guys trying to say how Denver has the best roster in the NFL minus a quarterback. If they had the quarterback, they would be the top contender for the NFC or AFC. I disagree. I've always disagreed. I would go more along the lines of the people who were saying that Denver has a lot of problems on defense, but I also would go even further and say I don't know what they see on offense that makes them special either. LA Chargers. We all know about the Chargers. We all know about how well they played towards the end of the season last year. Them being a plus 450 sounds pretty good to me. Justin Herbert, great quarterback. Here we go, year number 2. A lot of people have a lot of expectations. The problem is a lot of times when you guys put a lot of pressure on a quarterback and he's coming back for a second year and he just had his very first taste of success, a lot of times from what I have seen as a fan, remember, I'm not an insider. I'm a sports guy doing a sports show for sports fans. But when you see a guy coming back for a second year after he had his first taste of success, normally what you see is a guy who chokes under pressure. Maybe they get back into the groove year 3, maybe year 4, but they choke in year 2. I don't know that I'm going to see that out of Justin Herbert. I'm not saying we're going to see that out of Justin Herbert. I do question what is going to happen. Are the expectations realistic or not? A lot of times, more often than not, the expectations are really way over what the individual has the ability to accomplish just because the pressure is too great. Kansas City, we all know who they are. We all know what they are. But what they're not going to be, in my opinion, is a team that goes back to the Super Bowl. What they could and probably will be, because I believe this is a very weak division in the AFC West, is division champs. So them at negative 250 makes sense wholeheartedly to me. Again, there's a lot of things to see. How healthy is this offensive line going to be? How healthy is their defensive line now? How healthy is Patrick Mahomes? How healthy can he stay? Is he to become more of a pocket passer, or is he going to continue to run like he always has and potentially get injured? That is kind of where you run into an injury problem when you got a quarterback who's always moving, and I think that's where you run into just a ton of issues. All right, let's talk a little bit about the game by game for the Denver Broncos. So if I broke down the Denver Broncos and I said, okay, your first game, you're going to be at the New York Giants, I am going to go ahead and I am going to give you a loss to the Giants. Then the next game is going to be against the Jaguars. I'm going to give you a win. Then you're going to go against the Jets. I'm going to give you a win. Your next game is against the Ravens. I am definitely going to give you a loss. Then after that, you're going to go play the Steelers. I am going to give you a loss against the Steelers. Then you're going to go against the Raiders. I'm going to go ahead and give you a win against the Raiders. Then you're going to go against the Cleveland Browns, and I am definitely giving you a loss against the Browns. Washington, another loss there. The Cowboys, I'm going to give you a loss against the Cowboys. You've got the Eagles. I believe you can beat the Eagles. Then you're going to go up against the Chargers, and I think you're definitely going to get smoked by the Chargers. And then you've got the Chiefs. That's a loss. Then you've got the Lions. That's going to be a win. And then you've got the Bengals. That's going to probably be a tough one. I believe in Joe Burrows a lot, but it depends on whether he's going to be healthy or not. But I'm going to go ahead and just give you the win anyways. Then you're going to go up against the Raiders again, and I'll go ahead and give you a win against the Raiders. I'm going to give you the next game, which is the Chargers, and that's going to be a loss. And then you've got the Chiefs a second time. That is going to be a loss. So if I add it up, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 10 losses. So the Broncos would be 7-10 by my estimation at the end of this season. Now let's move on to the LA Raiders. I'm sorry. The Las Vegas Raiders. I'm sorry, I wrote down LA on accident. The Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, so if we move on to LA Chargers. LA Chargers. I don't know why I did that. See, this is what happens when you don't have enough time. All right, so LA Chargers. Here we go. So if I break down the LA Chargers game by game, they're going to go against Washington. I actually am going to give Washington the win on that one. They're going to go against the Cowboys. I am going to give them a win against the Cowboys. They're going to go against the Chiefs. It's going to be a tough battle. I am going to give them a loss against the Chiefs. Against the Raiders, I am going to give them a win. The next game against the Browns, another tough game. I'm going to go ahead and give them the loss, however. I'm going to give the edge to the Browns on that game. Then they're going to go against the Ravens. So going against the Ravens, I'm going to say they're probably going to take the loss on that one. Against the Patriots, I'm going to give them the win. Against the Eagles, I'm going to give them a win. Against the Vikings, I am going to give them a win against the Vikings. Against the Steelers, I believe they're going to take a loss against the Steelers. Then we're looking at the Broncos. I believe they're going to get a win against the Broncos. Against the Bengals, I'm going to give them a win as well. They're going to go against the Giants. Against the Giants, I'm going to give them a win. Against the Chiefs, I'm going to give them another loss. I just don't think they're ready for the Chiefs yet. Against the Texans, that's going to be a win. And then against the Broncos, I'm going to give them a win. And then against the Raiders, I'm going to give them a win. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They're going to go 11-6. Okay, so that's what we're looking at for the Chargers, 11-6. Now, let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, I did get the team right this time. Sorry about the debacle a moment earlier. All right, so we break down the Chiefs. They go against the Browns, and against the Browns, I'm going to give the Chiefs a win. It's going to be a tough one, but I'm going to give them a win. Against the Ravens, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Ravens in the early part of the season. I believe they'll be more up for that game, so I am going to go ahead and give that victory to the Ravens. Again, going against the Chargers, I am going to give them a win. Going against the Eagles, I'm going to give them a win. Going against the Bills. Now, this is the team that everybody says everybody needs to watch out for. I, however, am not as big of a believer in the Bills as everybody else is. I'm going to go ahead and give the win to the Chiefs. Then I'm going to move on to Washington. Now, this one's going to be tough. Defense is going to be stout. Probably the number one defense in the NFL, in all honesty. But when you're going up against Washington, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to give Washington the upset on that one. I just have a feeling. The Titans, I'm going to give that game to the Chiefs. The Giants, I'm going to give that game to the Chiefs. The Packers, I am going to give that game to the Chiefs. I am not a believer in the Packers. I don't think they're going to be horrible. I just don't think they're going to be everything everybody else thinks they are. Going against the Raiders, I'm going to give that to the Chiefs. Going against the Cowboys, I'm going to give that to the Chiefs. Going against the Broncos, that goes to the Chiefs. Raiders again, that goes to the Chiefs. Going against the Chargers, that goes to the Chiefs. Now, going against the Steelers, I am going to give this one to Pittsburgh. I just got a funny feeling Pittsburgh's going to come to play, and I'm a little big on Big Ben and the Steelers and what they're going to do this year, and I'm a little bit bigger than what most people think, actually, in all honesty. Against the Bengals, I think that they're going to get the W, and against the Broncos, they're going to get the W. So I have them going 14-3. Not bad, right? Not bad at all. Now we move on to the Las Vegas Raiders, the team that I wrote down twice for some crazy reason. All right, so the Raiders go against the Ravens, and that's going to be a loss. They're going to go against the Steelers. That is going to be a loss. They're going to play the Dolphins. I believe they're going to lose against the Dolphins. They're going to play the Chargers. They're going to lose against the Dolphins. The Raiders and the Bears, I believe they can steal one from Chicago. I am not a believer in Chicago. The Broncos, they're going to take a loss. And then, of course, they go against the Eagles. I believe that's going to be a tough one, but I think they can squeak out a win. Against the Giants, I believe they can squeak out a win. Against the Chiefs, that's going to be a loss. Against the Bengals, that is going to be a tough one, but they are going to lose it. Against the Cowboys, they're going to lose it. Against Washington, they're going to lose it. Against the Chiefs, they're going to lose. Back against the Browns, they're going to lose. They're going to go against the Broncos again, and they're going to lose. They're going to go against the Colts, they're going to lose. And then they got the Chargers, they're going to lose. Look, I got the Raiders winning 3 games this year, folks. 3 games is all I got. So I have Denver at 7-10. I got the Chargers 11-6. I got Kansas City 14-3, winning the division. And then I got the Raiders at 3-14, bottom of the division. And there are going to be some serious moves in the front office when it comes to the end of this season, or maybe even by midseason for the Raiders, as far as I can tell. I do not see good days ahead for the Raiders in any way, shape, or form. All right, so that's going to do it today. Tomorrow, we will do the AFC East. You guys, again, be safe. Do not drink and drive. We want to hear from you, not about you. You have a great day.